Well, hello, my paranormal peeps, and welcome back to another Anything Goes Paranormal podcast. My name is Matt Harvey. I am the founder of Deep Woods Paranormal. I am also the host of the Deep Woods Paranormal podcast. We have several podcasts that we do, and I'll explain a new one in just a second here. We have the Anything Goes Paranormal podcast, which basically we talk about anything paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, anything like that. We're going to kind of stay away from cryptids a little bit and Bigfoot a little bit on this one, just because we essentially they have their own podcast now. So we have this podcast. We have the Anything Goes podcast that usually it's supposed to come out on Mondays. Wednesdays, Amanda's podcast is supposed to come out. It's the Amanda Ghost Stories with Amanda, where she talks about previous experiences with ghosts. Sometimes she talks about some of our cases that we did. It's been so long now that we can kind of talk about them, and basically people won't really know who they are. And then I just created a cryptids only podcast because that seems to be a hot topic right now. And people seem to really enjoy me talking about cryptids. And then, of course, there's the Bigfoot Only podcast, which is a cryptid, but it's probably one of the most famous cryptids out there, so it has its own thing. I'm thinking about doing a fifth podcast. I just don't know what exactly you guys want to hear about. So on the cryptid ones, we'll be talking about Dog Man, Goat Man, Lizard Man, Ant Man. What else is there? There's like Loch Ness Monster, lake monsters, river monsters. There's all kinds of cryptids, and we'll talk about that on the podcast for Saturday. That'll probably release on Saturday. Tomorrow, I'll be releasing the Bigfoot Only podcast, and then Saturday you'll get that other one. What I'm trying to do is Monday through Friday, do podcast every day. Hopefully not more than about a half an hour. I know we start to lose people after about 5 or 6 minutes. So anyways, thanks guys for listening to me ramble on. We've got a lot of new, not only listeners, but viewers on our podcasts, both on our audio podcast and our YouTube channel, our Rumble channel. Sometimes we'll put stuff on other places too. But essentially, we're going to be talking about anything paranormal on these channels. Bigfoot, UFOs, ghosts, demons, haunted locations, you name it. If it's paranormal in nature, we'll be discussing it. Every once in a while, we have a guest on, which is awesome. We would love to have a guest. If you'd love to be a guest on our channel, we'd love to hear your story. There's no, discriminating against you or anything like that. We want you to feel comfortable coming on our show. And we want you to be able to tell your story. You can do it anonymously. You can tell us, who you are, where you were, whatever details you want to provide, you can do. So again, this is just very open, an open platform for people to come out and kind of tell their stories and stuff like that. Ask for help if they need it and stuff like that. If you don't know, Amanda and I offer paranormal help free of charge, be it ghosts, Bigfoots, whatever. We come out and research on your property or at your location, or your business, whatever. And, we got to give you guys some feedback, and we try and document whatever. And then we show you what we caught, if we got anything. So, all right. So I was talking to a lady, actually I talked to a couple different people, and they were very curious about my story. What got me into the paranormal? Now, I know I've talked about this, but it's been a long time. And, what's interesting is every once in a while you meet people that seem to know more about you than they should. And this one girl was talking to me about things, and it's like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. So let's go back to my childhood. It's kind of scary for me. So as a baby, well, no, not as a baby, as an infant, all the way up till the time I was about 5 or 6, I saw spirits like they were you and me. They were solid. I could never understand why somebody would walk down the hallway and I turn around, they go past me, I turn around and look back at them, and they'd be gone. And they'd appear and disappear. They would do things. I don't even remember exactly all what they did. Sometimes they did good things. Sometimes they did bad things. Sometimes they got me in trouble. I didn't really have an imaginary friend growing up. Unfortunately, I wish I would have, but I didn't, that I know of. So between being 6 and 8, somewhere around there, I have a lot of missing time as a kid. A lot of missing memories. And so when I go back into those memories, I try to remember them. I can't remember them. Somebody told me that something happened to me that scared me so bad that I essentially closed myself off. Now, I still see spirits sometimes like they're us. I don't see them as much anymore. Maybe I've kind of grown out of it a little bit. I can still sense them. I can pick up on their energy. I can smell them sometimes. I can hear them sometimes. I see shadow people all the time. Not everywhere, but just in places where there seems to be paranormal activity. I can go into a location and kind of pick up on the vibe or the energy of a location and tell you this is a place we need to investigate. And I'm talking about ghosts only here. I wish I could do that with Bigfoots or UFOs or whatever and say, hey, yeah, there's going to be a UFO here tonight. Nope. I wish that was happening. We would get some cool evidence probably. But if there's anybody out there like that, let me know. Come on over to Texas. We'll take you out to those locations and we'll try and document whatever's going on. But anyways, so like I said, between 6 and 8, I don't know exactly what happened, but I had something happen to me that must have scared me to the point where I said, okay, I'm not gonna experience this anymore. All the way up till it just never stopped. Even after I was 8 or 9, we moved into a house in Irvine, California, where this is where the tormenting started, if you will, all the way up till about 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever it was. I don't even remember exactly what time this happened to me. It was more playful, more, hey, it's okay, I'm just here to check on you, whatever. It wasn't anything, I'm going to try and scare you or hurt you or anything like that. It was more of just, oh, you can see me, oops, and disappear. Or maybe they were trying to show me something or whatever. Maybe it was family members that have passed away. I don't even know. But all the way up till that point, everything was pretty cool. I wasn't afraid of it or anything like that. When I got to about 8 or 9, we moved into this house in Irvine. I had a bunk bed. And that bunk bed, the bottom bunk would turn into an L, and then the dresser would slide in there. Anyways, let me start real quick from the beginning. When we first moved in, everything was fine. I never liked to sleep with the door closed in my room. I always had to have a little bit open, and I would see shadows darting around my room. That's how it kind of started, shadows. And my mom was heavily Catholic. My dad was a non-believer, still is a non-believer, even though I've shown him some crazy evidence and it scares him, I think. Anyways, and everybody has their own way of dealing with things that are unknown. A lot of people just, oh no, that's not real. They don't want it to be real. Let's just put it that way. And I understand that. It goes back to that saying where I say you have to, have an encounter where you could say that couldn't be anything else but, and you can put a ghost in there, UFO, Bigfoot, river monster, whatever. You have to be able not be able to explain it away. You have to be able to say for sure that was what I saw, and that's very important. I hate the word debunking, but I've been doing this so long. I've been doing this, God, over 40. I've experienced paranormal activity for over 40 years. I've been investigating it for close to 30 now with my wife, Amanda. She was a savior in my life, and I'll talk to you about that here in a minute. But so I would sleep on the top bunk when I was younger, 8 or 9. I used to sleep up top, and essentially my pillow would basically end up at the foot of my ladder every night. And I could never understand why that was going on. I thought, I told my parents are like, well, you just knocked it off, which could have been true. I could have knocked it off. I can't say I did or didn't. Until one night where I was almost asleep and I had my arms around my pillow, holding it as tight as I could so it wouldn't go anywhere. And all of a sudden, I feel a yank, and I squeezed it as tight as I could, and then it stopped. And then I just kind of relaxed and let go, and then all of a sudden, it just flew out from my arms and up over the railing and disappeared. And I looked over, and I'm looking down. I remember this one very vividly, and it wasn't there. And so I looked down the ladder, and there it is. It's leaning literally like up and down against the ladder. So I crawl on my tummy, crawl down, grab the pillow, start to pull up, and something yanks back. That creeped me out. And then I started to pull again, and it yanked back, and I hear this this creepy little girl. So I can't even mimic the laugh. Little kids who are here, don't you do that? Sorry, I've got some haunted dolls and some kids that are in this room possibly. So if you're listening to the podcast and you hear a little kid's voice, it's probably one of them. Anyway, so this went on for another 5 years. It wasn't until I was 12 or 13 that we moved out of the house. So I eventually started sleeping on the bottom bunk. And basically I turned it into the L shape, put the dresser next to it. And I would do like a fort tent. I'd put a sheet from the top bunk down over the bottom bunk, and then sheets on the sides so you couldn't see in. And it was like a fort in there. It was big, with the extra room, because the bunk was turned sideways. The dresser in there, it felt like I was safe. And one night I had the light on in there, and I kid you not, if you've seen the movie Sixth Sense, it's exactly pretty much what happened to me. I know I talked to a producer a long time ago about my childhood experiences, and maybe that's where they got it from. But so I'm sitting in bed, and because of all the activity, I'm terrified at night. I don't want to go to bed. I don't want to go to sleep. I'm terrified of what's going on, not understanding what's going on. Can't talk to anybody about it. Back in the 80s, I mean, you brought up the word psychic, ghost, medium, any of that stuff. They basically put you in a home, not in a good home, in a mental facility or something. So, when I went to my parents put me through therapy because they thought I was a little, cuckoo up there. But as I've gone on, I've realized that I wasn't cuckoo. Anyways, so I'm sitting there with the light on inside the fort tent. I think I had a little radio on because I couldn't sleep. The main things that happened to me as a kid was hearing the whispering. Couldn't make out what the hell it was saying. My hearing back then was pretty good. My hearing sucks now, but I do wear hearing aids, so my hearing level is up higher than it used to be. It's above average. So, and I hear things sometimes that people don't hear, especially on investigations, probably because I'm so in tune with what's going on. So I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I see like the silhouette of somebody walk by, and it creeped me out. It didn't touch the blanket or the sheet or anything. But I know my door was closed. I would have heard my door open. It wasn't my brother, my mom, or anybody coming in. It was just something walking by. Now, find out later, I believe that home was built on Indian burial ground, and they didn't move the bones. Back then, they just basically built right over them. Now it's a bigger thing. They have to move everything religiously, which is awesome. It's what they should do. And they basically have the tribes come and move the bones for them and stuff. But it still leaves energy there because the spirits have been disturbed. So my closet door used to open and close on its own. Used to see shadows come out of there and then, just disappear. They would dart around the room. And when the bottom bunk was on, sometimes I would feel like kicking on the bottom of my mattress on the top, and stuff like that. And I hear somebody like down below. It was creepy as hell. Um, and then as I got older, we moved into a rental home, and that I haven't really talked about this ever. Um, that house, I found out later. We were only there for a year, thank God. But I found out later that the guy that lived there before us, his family rented the place out because he died in the house. He had a heart attack and died. Now, over the garage, there was a good sized rec room, 500 square foot rec room, and he had built this beautiful bar. And the room I stayed in was small. I got my pick of rooms. I could have taken the bigger room. I chose a smaller one because I knew we weren't going to be there very long, and I didn't have a whole lot of stuff that I brought over with me. Excuse me. So my parents felt bad for me, and they let me sleep in the rec room, which was awesome. I slept on the pull-out bed and got to watch TV in there and stuff. After everybody went to bed, I would turn the TV on. So one night, had to be 2 or 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm awakened by the sound of like bottles being shaken. And I look around the room, I look over the bar, and I see these bottles come up over onto the bar itself and get set down. And that's the noise I was hearing. And then after that, about a second later, this guy, the head of the guy pops up. I can still see him clearly today. He had bald head, shaved face. And he looks over at me and he's like got this really angry face. And it's like, oh crap. He sees me. He knows I can see him. And then he disappeared. The bottles and him disappeared. And I didn't find out till later that he had died in the house. My grandma got sick and unfortunately passed away about 6 to 8 months before, while we were living there. She spent about 2 months, 3 months in the hospital. And we basically slept in my parents' room the night before she passed. My brother and I slept in my parents' room because if something happened, we wanted to go with my dad to the hospital and say our goodbyes and stuff like that. Unfortunately, we did say our goodbyes, but unfortunately, we weren't there when she passed. So the night she passed, I basically started hearing this male voice say, and I've never talked about this, except for with, I think, Amanda. So this is kind of therapy for me. So bear with me. This is hard to talk about. Scared, just frustrating to me. If I had known what I know now back then, I probably could have crossed him over and helped him get to the peace he needed. But he started telling me, and just in my head, and I say that spirits are just energy. They can manipulate electronic devices and stuff like that. One thing that people don't realize is that our body runs off electric currents. Our brain's like a computer, and it sends electric currents through our body to make us talk, walk, whatever. And so I think they're people that are more sensitive to spirits. They're able to manipulate our brainwaves a little bit better so that we see things, hear things, feel things, predict things, whatever. I don't want to get into the psychic side of things. Anyways, I start hearing, get out, get out, get out. And it's just constant. And this is probably about 2 or 3 months after I saw him. And so I pull my pillow up. I think I'm 13, 14. No, I was older than that. Yeah, I was 13. I think I was 13 or 14 at that point in time. Maybe it was 15. So you can see the Raggedy Ann doll behind me. Oh, that's creepy. And the other dolls, those are the dolls. I'll turn one of these days I'll do a podcast without the screen, green screen. Anyways, So this went on for hours and hours. I pulled the pillow up over my head. I could not sleep. He would not stop. And it relentlessly went on for 3 or 4 hours. He just would not stop. So after that, we moved out of there and moved into our new home. Well, actually, we moved into an apartment for about a year or two because my dad was still building our house up in Laguna Hills, California. Beautiful home. I mean, he was a contractor and he spared no expenses on this house. I mean, he bear with me on the saying here, but he screwed the floorboards in, and before they did that, they used like with liquid nails to make sure they were secure. That house never made a sound at night, never creaked, never moaned, never did anything. It was quiet. So we moved. Basically, I helped build the house. I was basically there during the summers, trying to earn some extra money. My dad let me work on his construction sites during the summer. As long as I wasn't playing sports or anything, I was allowed to do that. And so I would hear the guys talking, and you guys have all heard. If you want to, I'm not going to get into too many details, but as the construction went on, a lot of strange things happened. Like the guys would say that they left their tools up in different areas, and this was almost a 6,000 square foot home. They leave their stuff in different rooms that they were working in, and come back the next day to find it all piled in the garage. Now there was a fence along all the way around this property, so you couldn't get in and out unless you had a key to get in. And like a hammer came out of one of the guy's holsters, basically went over this roof and then down the other side, and then 45 feet and fell on a window. Went to the left 45 feet. It just isn't possible for that to happen. So we moved in, and there was just this thick, heavy feeling in the house. I don't know what happened there. This is up. We were up on top of. We were about 3,000 feet up. We were up on a mountain, in a very nice area, a very rich area, and we had views. I mean, all the way down Laguna Beach through Mission Viejo. We could see a lot of stuff. So anyways, it was just a beautiful home. I don't know what the history of the land was. It was just a mountain when we moved in. And there was a lot of open lots and stuff like that. A lot of people built after we did, but moved in, and things immediately started to happen to me. I don't know if it happened to my brother and stuff, but long story short, that house was demonically haunted for some reason. Don't know what happened. Like I said, when I was 6 or 7, things went from being nice to naughty. There was a change. And it was almost like, okay, you've seen the ghost. Now we're going to teach you what they can do or something. I don't know. And then we moved into this house again. It changed to, okay, you've dealt with the regular paranormal, the regular ghosts. Now we're going to show you demons. And so, I mean, my friends wouldn't come over and spend the night because they were scared of what they saw. I mean, we literally saw like footprints walking through the ceiling, and this had no popcorn ceilings. It was just a flat surface, and essentially something walked from one side of the room out the door. My friend's like, Matt. I'm like, what? He's like, this is like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. We were about to sneak out and go do some TPing and stuff like that. This is back when you could still do that, and not get arrested or shot or whatever. So he's like, did you see that? I'm like, the footprints? He's like, yeah. He's like, oh, okay. And we went back to sleep. Next morning, he's like, okay, it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, let's get something to eat and we'll go do something. No, I gotta go. That happened a lot. So when I was home, I spent a lot of time home alone in that house. We lived there for like 6, 7 years. I was able to drive. I was 16 or whatever. By the time I was 18, my parents left me home a lot alone because I was mature enough to handle it. I could make my own food. I could go get stuff if I needed to. I was working. I had a full-time job. Not a full-time job. I had a part-time job during the weekends and stuff. So I had my own money and stuff like that. And so a lot of the times I'd be in my room and I would turn this old TV on, and this TV had the rabbit ears. I don't know if you're younger, you won't know what the heck that is, but if you're my age or older, you'll know what I mean. Um, so it's just basically a static, basically the old gray staticky stuff on the TV screen. And I would try and find like one or two channels to at least listen or watch something. Half the time it was in a different language because nothing came in. But I had these giant rabbit ears that I kept attaching. We didn't have cable. We had cable in that room, but I wasn't allowed to have cable in my bedroom. My parents didn't even want me having a TV or a radio in my room back in the day. So um, essentially, they let me have a TV because I was having a hard time sleeping. And like this is another location where my closet door would open and close. I'd hear footsteps above me. I'd hear noises above me. And my dad's like, whoa, it's just some kind of animal. They're climbing up the trees on the outside. I'm like, there's no trees next to the side of the house. And how are they getting in? Wouldn't you see up in the rafters activity of them? Now, that third level, the peaks on the house were like 45 degrees. They were steep. The third level, I mean, it could have been another story in the house. That's what my dad was anticipating doing, is making it a third story. But he never actually did. We never went through and put drywall or anything up there. But he did put plywood, again, screwed with glue, so it didn't make a squeak or sound up on that third level. There were certain places you couldn't walk because there was about a 40-foot drop down into our downstairs living room on the right side. But anyways, there was access through my brother's room. He had a little loft up there, and I would climb up there and go into the area above my room, and I could get all the way over almost to my parents' bedroom, and then I could get all the way down past my brother's room to where the rec room was. We had about a 5,000 square foot rec room, and essentially I would sit there and just look around. I had a flashlight at first, and then I grabbed my dad's big VHS camera. If you've never seen one, look back in some of the older 80 movies, you'll see them. They're massive, heavy, and they take a huge cassette tape and stuff like that. So I go up there, and it just does not have night vision. Okay, the night vision was very hard to get back in the early 90s, and so and it was extremely expensive, and there was no reason for most people to have it, so they didn't really sell it. So I'm up there running around with a flashlight, and then finally one day I grabbed my dad's audio recorder, and my dad basically got out of the construction business and became a lawyer again. He had been a lawyer for like 30 years, and he used the tape to basically dictate to his secretary certain things that he wanted her to type up for him. So I thought I grabbed a fresh cassette. Maybe I didn't. And maybe I actually accidentally recorded over what he had put, or recorded afterwards because he was listening back to it. Anyways, I went up there one night and I'm asking questions. I can't tell you what questions I asked. But then this is on a weekend. They weren't home. The next, following Monday, he comes bursting into my room. He's like, "What is this?" And he's holding cassette tape. I'm like, "I don't know. Can I listen to it?" And he's like, "No." "What is this?" I'm like, "Well, I was just recording audio." And he was very upset about that. And then he left. It was like, okay. So I still have no idea what was on there. It was enough to freak him out. He was agitated with it. Anyways, so I basically had my closet door open and close in there. I had to go to the bathroom. I had to go out down the hallway past my brother's room, and then basically the bathroom was down by the rec room, which I just talked about a little while ago. It was about 30, 40 feet away. I was terrified. I was so scared to go to the bathroom. I had a flashlight and I'd run down the hallway as fast as I could, lock the door behind me, turn the light on, go to the bathroom, and then, of course, clean up after that. And then, I would be hesitant to unlock the door and run back to my room because I just felt like something was watching me or following me or wanted to do something to me. I didn't know. It was not a comfortable feeling. It was, like I said, the house had a thick, heavy feeling. It was scary most of the time. And so as time went on, I started seeing a cloaked figure. Now, I know it's not death, but it looked like it. Maybe it was projecting itself in a certain way just to scare me. It was basically a skull with a cloak over the top of it, had bony fingers. And this one time it opened my closet door and it was just black. I couldn't even see inside my closet. And you could see everything else around it. You could make out items and stuff in basically around the room, but it was black. And then this thing comes floating out. And then all of a sudden the front of my bed starts shaking and boom, falls. Then this thing reappears and floats back in my closet. Now, I've told this story a few times. So, again, this is just for the people that are just coming onto our podcast. Thank you guys for doing that. If you're on a YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. It really helps our channel out and helps us get our research out to other people. If you want to share this on social media, we appreciate it. But anyways, hit that notification bell too, because we do try and post 3 or 4 times a week on our YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Rumble channel, we also do the same thing. And then, of course, over on any platform, I think we're on 60 different platforms for the audio podcast. Everything from Apple to whatever, we're on it. And we're constantly getting invited to new ones. So anyways, this thing floats back into the closet, disappears. The closet door closes and it basically disappears. I wasn't getting up to see what just happened. I closed my eyes when trying to go back to sleep, which I don't think I got much sleep that night. So I talked about basically what happened was the front of the bed, there was giant rivets. I had a bed frame, and the rivets on the bed frame were still solid. They didn't break. What had happened was the metal legs got bent up into the frame in mere, not even a second. It just happened almost instantaneously. My friends and I, we could bench press 300 or 400 pounds each. We could not get this thing to move even a quarter of an inch. We tried to bend the other side. There was no way. I apologize for the dogs barking in the background. So another thing that happened, I don't think I've ever talked about this either. Maybe I have. Hot day during the summer. My parents didn't like to run the air conditioning on, too low. I think it was set at 72 or 73, and essentially, I was in the rec room, and I feel a cold breeze go by me. I'm like, what the heck? And then as that happened, I heard a female voice say, Matt. And I look around, I'm going, okay. I just ignored it because that's what I was told to do. Just ignore it. That doesn't work, by the way. I'm not saying to acknowledge it, but don't ignore it. Say, okay, I understand you hear something. I don't know. Do something. So when I did acknowledge it, all of a sudden the whole room, it felt like we were having an earthquake, just violently shook. Just that room, only that room shook. I still have no explanation to this day how that happened. And that happened to Amanda too, when she was in there by herself. And I was in the bathroom right next to that room. I didn't feel anything. Anyways, so I go down, I look up, and there's a pool table, and there's a chandelier of the pool table. There's another hanging light there. Both of them are going back and forth like we just had an earthquake. So I run around the corner, and I yell down to my mom in the kitchen. Excuse me. She's about 40, 50 feet away. And I say, "Hey, Mom, did you feel the earthquake?" She's like, "No." When I look at the chandelier on the back staircase where I was, that chandelier wasn't moving. So I thought maybe I just imagined it. I turned around and the other chandeliers were still going. And so I have no explanation for that. First, that was the first and only time that's ever happened. I hope it doesn't ever happen again, to be honest with you. It's creepy to think that something can shake a whole room like that. The energy that would have to happen, the amount of energy it would take to do that. I mean, I can't even fathom it. I mean, it would have to be like an earthquake. So, time went on and I kept dealing with things. And this is, just started dating my wife in high school. And so one day I'm by myself for the weekend. I think it was a Friday night or something like that, Friday afternoon. I don't even remember what just had happened, but I called her in a panic and I said, come pick me up. I got to get out of here. Let's go somewhere. Let's do something. And she was out with her cousin. And so they pulled up. And of course, I come running out and I'm talking to her, explaining what happened. She's like, calm down, calm down. It's okay. Don't worry. And as we're standing there, I look up and in my brother's room, we had the wooden blinds. Like I said, my dad spared no expense on this house. It's a beautiful house. And so the wood blinds, the slats, like open on one side, they just had a tilt. And I look up and I can see the cloaked figure. And I looked at her and I pointed at it. She saw it too. And I said, I'm not going back in there. I don't remember what else I said, but she's like, you got to go face your fears. You got to go face this thing. Otherwise, it's going to continue to do this to you. She grew up, I'll let her tell her story maybe on one of her ghost stories, but she grew up in a house where they accepted ghosts and stuff like that. It was more talked about, more of a normal thing for them because her family has psychic people in the family and stuff like that. I don't know my history. I was adopted. So I don't know what my parents, experienced or didn't experience. After I had that experience, I listened to my wife and basically I started saying, you're not allowed to do that. I started taking control. And after that point, she and I started exploring different haunted locations in our area, the Queen Mary, the Whaley House. We'd spent a lot of time up in LA. We started traveling to like Tombstone and different places like that. We almost every weekend we were at some place that was haunted or said to be haunted. For the skeptics out there, just take that with a grain of salt. And like I said, I don't expect anybody to believe until you had your own encounter. So time went on, and this show called Ghost Hunters came on. And we were at a party one time with a bunch of our friends. And for some reason, they were watching TV and they flipped the channel and Ghost Hunters came on. And they started watching and they're like, because some of our friends went with us to these said to be haunted places and spent the night to see if they could experience anything. And sometimes we had experiences, sometimes we didn't. One of my favorite places was the Queen Mary. So they look at me, they turn around and look at me, they're like, that's what you do. Why don't you have a team? And I'm like, well, do you want to form a group? And so we formed the California Lake Forest Ghost Hunters, CLF Ghost Hunters. As time went on, if you have your own group, unfortunately people move on and they choose not to investigate the paranormal anymore. Sometimes they go form their own teams. They do, people just do their own thing, which is fine. But you constantly have people coming in and going out, and you're constantly teaching people different things. So I started putting together a group. I started reaching out to different groups in our area. The San Diego group, which is a TAPS family member team. If you know Ghost Hunters, you know the TAPS family member teams. We also reached out to a group up in Los Angeles, 2 groups in Los Angeles, actually. Both of them were psychic groups. And we spent a long time basically learning how to do research the paranormal. We went with the San Diego group on a couple investigations, and then they came with us on a couple of investigations and basically watched us. and helped us get approved for becoming a TAPS family member team. And then, we had our first investigation. A gentleman called me up, and we had a lot of stuff going on in his house. I've talked about that before too. I don't want to make this podcast too long, but that's basically where we got started. About 3 or 4 years after we were the California Lake Forest Ghost Hunters, we dropped the Lake Forest part of it and just became the California Ghost Hunters. At that point, we had, I think we had 28 to 30 people in our group at certain points. But we needed that many people. We were doing like 8 or 10 investigations a month. We were going out on Friday night, Saturday nights, sometimes on both, sometimes multiple teams going out on those nights, and helping people in their homes. We got to the point where we were doing so many cases that people started to burn out. The people that have been with me for a long time, they're like, I got to take a break. This is too much. We were basically investigating on Friday, Saturday night, and by Wednesday or Thursday of the following week, we were sitting down together and doing kind of like a Skype conference call where we were presenting evidence and looking it over and saying, okay, yes, this is real. No, this isn't real. Or this is something else. It's not paranormal. And then Friday, or that Friday night or Saturday night, we'd sit down with those clients and go over everything again with them, our findings, if we had any. And just understand that a lot of the time we didn't have any findings. We had a 50-50 chance. So we were either going back and investigating that location again because they needed further help, or we were moving on to the next case. We had debunked a whole bunch of, like I said, I hate the word debunk. We had found other explanations for what was causing the noises in the house, what was possibly scaring people. And we just try to help them get rid of the fear of whatever's going on, even if they did have a legitimate case where they had something there. And I'm not saying that those cases weren't legitimate, but legitimate hauntings, let's just put it that way. For those people that had legitimate hauntings, which, was 1 out of every 100 cases where you go in and things would just interact with you immediately, that was intelligent, meaning that, they could understand what you're saying, they could comprehend what you're saying and respond with an intelligent response, either through audio or showing themselves on video or moving something or lighting up the K2s, whatever. That's what we were looking for. We were looking for intelligent entities. And so we could have a conversation with them and essentially help them with whatever they needed. And then also help the family understand what was going on. So we still do that to this day. We've been doing this for 30 years now, close to 30 years. But now we also research Bigfoot. I've had 3 UFO sightings that I can say were UFO sightings. In fact, I saw something strange in the sky the other night, but I'm not sure exactly what it was. There was one really, really bright star. It was way brighter and way larger than any other star. And then it looked like there was a line across. It was only about maybe half an inch because it was far away. And then there was a little tiny red light that looked like it was attached. At one point, it turned white and flashed. I'm like, what the heck? It wasn't a plane. I saw several planes fly by it. And this was much higher up in the sky. So it must have been pretty far away. But I still don't know what that was. And by unidentified flying object, it just means that you can't say it was this or it was that or whatever. It could have been the stars. It could have been some kind of plane. It could have been something I just didn't understand. Who knows what it was? But anyways, we'll get into maybe UFO stories next week and talk about that. We'll see. So anyways, that's how we got started. I used to do ghost tours up in Orange County at several different said to be haunted places: Black Star Canyon, San Juan Capistrano, the Suicide Bridge in Pasadena, which my friend Adriana turned me on to. This is a shout out to her. Really cool place. Had a lot of experiences there. And then we went to the Queen Mary every once in a while. We did other events in other places. and stuff like that too. But my friend, I got burned out and got in trouble with my wife because I was nonstop. The way it used to work when we first started the team, the CLF Ghost Hunters, and when we became the California Ghost Hunters, I was so involved that all I did was go to work, come home, eat really quickly if I ate at all, spent hours all the way up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes reviewing audio, video, the DVR system, looking for anything that could be possibly paranormal, going getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep, getting up and doing it again. So that was not real good for my marriage. And thank God Amanda's still with me. But yeah, she didn't like that too much. And unfortunately, that was pretty sad that that happened that way. So yeah, that was basically California Ghost Hunters. I I left the California Ghost Hunters in 2013. I gave it over to my friends who were also big into the paranormal. They had been with me for a long time. They knew how to run everything. I sold them some gear and stuff like that. I don't think the California Ghost Hunters are still around. Maybe it's under a different name or whatever. Who knows? But yeah, we serviced the paranormal for like 13 years or something like that. After that, I took a break. I took about 3 or 4 months off, and something just drew me to Black Star Canyon. We had been up there one time, and we had all kinds of experiences. I mean, like people like we had a group of people. We were walking on the old gravelly road up there. If you want to know about Black Star Canyon, I'm pretty sure I talk about it in one of my other podcasts, so you can go back and listen to it. But anyways, it's basically a fire access road out in the middle of the Cleveland National Forest. Basically, there's old mines up there. They used to mine for low-grade coal. The name of the mining company was a Black Star Mining Company, which is where Black Star Canyon got its name from. Anyways, a lot of tragedies up there. Supposedly, there was a fire in 1904 that wiped out all the miners, not all the miners, but most of the miners in the town that was up there, and all the structures and stuff like that. It came through so fast that they didn't have a chance to get out. There's a lot of rumors of things up there, like the Spanish used to fight the Indians up there, which is I found out it wasn't true. There's been murders up there, unfortunately. That's a location, if you're going to, you better be prepared. You better have some kind of emergency stuff with you, including mainly first aid, and a little bit of food and some water. Have a lot of water with you, because if you get up there 3 or 4 miles, if you get like even a mile up there and you scream, nobody's going to hear you. It's very secluded. It's very out in the middle of nowhere, even though it's like smack dab in the middle of Orange County. So I started going up there and researching, and that's where I had my first Bigfoot encounter. You can listen back on the Bigfoot only podcast for that. And all these podcasts, by the way, are tied together. They're all in here together. I think there's 108 episodes. This will be 109, episode 109. And I'll be doing 110 here in a minute. So anyways, you can go back and listen to that. It should say Bigfoot only podcast or something like that. And it'll basically talk about Black Star Canyon. So, yeah, I had a lot of experiences up there. Saw a lot of shadows, saw apparitions. Of course, I had multiple Bigfoot sightings and encounters. And again, these are things where I can say that couldn't be anything else but a Bigfoot and shadow people and stuff like that. I developed a relationship with the spirits up there, and then they seemed to really enjoy me coming up there and talking to them and stuff like that. And over time, I figured out who's who, what the spirits are, and stuff like that. So yeah, and there's a lot of tragedy that happens out on the road, right next to it, the San Diego Canyon Road. Multiple bikers have died out there. In fact, there's possibly a biker who haunts, as you first walk through the gate, he haunts that area. He's not always there, but he's there sometimes. We've heard him walking in the gravel when we were moving. Also got a possible picture of him. If you want to go over I think it's on my Facebook page. If you want to go over my Facebook page, you can look at it there. So anyways, yeah, I mean, that's basically what got me started. I started investigating Black Star Canyon like every other weekend, and then it started to become an obsession. I love being up there. I don't know if it was just because I was out and about in the fresh air and basically away from everybody just to clear my head or what. But I started spending a lot of time up there. And then I also started researching down in San Juan Capistrano, and of course, every once in a while, my friends and I would go out to Pasadena Suicide Bridge. If you're in California and you want to go to the Suicide Bridge, do not go alone. Take at least one or two other people with you, so you can keep an eye on each other. The top of the bridge, there's something there that likes to manipulate people and make them jump. I'm not kidding. You probably have seen the Suicide Bridge in several shows. They basically the metal bars that are all the way across each side of the bridge. They CGI them out, so it just looks like it's a flat. They're not there. But if you go down to the end on the left side, there's an area where a lady threw her baby off during the Great Depression. They say it was 140 deaths, but I think there's a lot more than that. A lot of people jumped to their deaths. You can still sometimes hear screams coming from the valley below, and then also there was Indians that lived in that area, and so there's just a big mixture of things. There's also Devil's Triangle over there, and the Suicide Bridge is within that triangle. So I mean, who knows? Anywho, just be careful if you go to any of these locations, especially the Suicide Bridge. Like I said, do not go alone. It's not safe. And like I said, you guys, if you go out there, especially when you're on top, make sure you keep an eye on each other. I don't even know if you can go to the bottom anymore. I think they've blocked it off so you can't get down there. All right. So, yeah, basically, I started doing tours at these locations. My friend Chris, after a couple of years, I decided to move on from doing tours, and my friend Chris took that over. However, I continued to investigate those locations all the way up to the time we moved to Texas about 4 years ago. So, yeah, we after I left the Orange County Ghosts and Legends, I think basically I created Orange County Ghosts and Legends Paranormal. And then my friend and Chris and I went to, God, so many places. If you're ever out in Peach Springs in Arizona, make sure you stop by the Grand Canyon Caverns. That place is haunted. It is haunted, especially down in the caverns. If you're lucky enough to get down there when the lights are off, you hear some creepy crap. You hear people like walking around on the pavement walkway that and you're the only two people down there, and you hear people, your friends standing right next to you, you can feel them standing with you shoulder to shoulder, but you hear people in the distance moving around. Oh man, I have stories of that place. Maybe I'll do a podcast on the Grand Canyon Caverns one of these days. If you're in Orange County or in Arizona or whatever, you might want to reach out to Chris and see if he's still doing the tours out there, or the ghost hunting investigations out there. I know they do walking tours, but Chris, when he goes out there, he'll take you down in the cavern, and I think there's an opportunity for you to sleep down below. I don't know how much it costs, but it's worth doing. So yeah, look up the Grand Canyon Caverns if you haven't. Like I said, I might talk about that just on its own episode, because there's so many things that happen there. Anyways, all right. So after I left that, I needed a new name for a group. Of course, I came up with Deep Woods Paranormal, and the logo you see up in the right-hand corner was not the original logo. I was lucky enough to find an artist on Facebook who created that for me. I've given him shout outs many times. And then, of course, we have Deep Woods Productions now that we run. So, anyways, all right, guys, I am rambling on. I'll talk about Texas here later, maybe in another podcast, but we essentially moved to Texas about almost 4 years ago now. We've been exploring places out here and looking for Bigfoots and looking for UFOs and looking for river monsters. And like I said, if it's paranormal in nature, we want to go check it out. Strange lights. We've gone to the Marfa lights, and we experienced those. I've got 500 or 600 pictures of strange lights that I can't explain, and just cool stuff. But anyways, all right, guys, this podcast is dragging on a little too long. Thanks for listening. Again, if you're on our YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. If you're on any of our audio podcasts, please subscribe to us there as well. If you want to leave a comment, we're on 60. I think we're on 60 some odd platforms now, and we continue to grow. So best way to get a hold of us if you want to become a guest on our show is either through Facebook. Go look up Deep Woods Paranormal, look up Matt Harvey. You'll see my ugly mug. Or you can go on our website, deepwoodsparanormal.com, and you can send us a message through there as well. I've given out my cell number so many times, it's not even funny. I think it's on the link below. But all this stuff, our Facebook account, everything is linked below for you guys to go check out. So anyways, all right, guys. Well, we appreciate you. Thanks for listening and watching, and we will catch you on the next one.